Hi, I'm Lewis Adams, and welcome to Local Chats. Bendigo lads, Four Lions, have just finished recording their fourth studio record, Hard Days, their biggest to date. They'll be touring the lead single, How Much in March, and have scored a spot on the Bendigo Autumn Music Festival. I caught up with band members Shann and Keith McQueen for a chat. G'day guys, welcome to the show.
Thank you. G'day.
Lewis, hello.
For the listeners at home, what do you do in the band?
Sing, play some guitar, harmonica.
Write the tunes.
Be Keith's sidekick.
Yeah, exactly. Someone's got to carry him, Lewis. I'm guitarist and background vocals.
Lead guitarist.
Shann's the primary songwriter. He's the originator of Four Lines.
The originator, all right.
It's like the Terminator, is it?
Except you start things, you don't finish them.
True.
Yeah.
You'd be my John Connor.
At least it's not Sarah.
Now, what wonderfully you guys are actually segueing into a question that I had right now, which is not about Terminator, unfortunately. Although we can just talk, I know you got an album and stuff, but you want to just talk about Terminator for half an hour?
New album's called T3.
T3, Rise of the Machines or
That's
something.
it.
All right, now Shann, Four Lines did start with you, and it was very much your vision early on, but now, you're just about to be 4 albums in, and you've got some talented musicians surrounding you. How much of it is led by you, and how much it is a bit more collaborative?
It's sort of one of those things that the longer you do it, the more comfortable you get with everyone in the band. And I suppose to really jump the shark here, when we do get around to album 5, which I already have a vision for, it will be quite collaborative. The difference is, I suppose, the first album, I wrote all the songs except one, which was a co-write with the guy who I recorded with, and my partner Jenny contributed some lyrics as well, and I sort of worked with them. And then the next album, it sort of started off that collaboration, like Keith had these 3 chords, and then out of that we wrote Nothing Land. So that was the first sort of collaboration with actual band members, because Keith come on during the making of the first album, Charing Cross. Third album, because it was just a concept thing, Golden Triangle, it was like the whole album was written in 2 days. So that was a bit different in the sense of, because it's all stories about Bendigo's gold rush history, and not only that, but some of my own history of Bendigo. It was a project just written in 2 days. So collaboration for a concept record wasn't really possible, but with Hard Days, a forthcoming Four Lions album, the 4th one, I think there's 11 songs on it. I've written 6, but I think there's 4 songs that Keith and I have written together. There's 1 song that Keith, myself, and Stephen Briggs, the Hammond keyboard piano guy, has wrote with us. And then there's 1 song that's actually written as a full band. I'd prefer, if we could, to write a lot more as a full band, so that's what we're going to try and do. It's an arduous process, because I think just to write that 1 song took 6 weeks. And when we say 6 weeks, this isn't a full-time gig, people. It's more around, for 6 band practices, we wrote this song. There is songs for another album that have formed, and I've got this vision, but it's going to be a real collaboration. And if, what comes out of that, if it's a, 10 or a 12 track album and I've only solely written 3 or 4 songs, or 2 or 1, doesn't matter, because it's about the actual songs and putting the best version of Four Lines forward, which I think we've done with this new record. It's definitely the best thing we've ever done. So it really sort of spurs the creativity and the willingness of, yourself and all the other band members, I think.
Yeah, and what some people tend to miss too in the songwriting, yes, there's a songwriting itself, but then it comes down to the performance of the song, and that's where the band's interpretation adds to the raw song that was brought to the table. And I guess an example is the first single, How Much. Originally that was a much rockier tune than it came out, but in the studio we sat back and said, we think we need to transform this into something else as a band. We just weren't feeling it, and then it came out the way
I said it was a good song, so I had to fight for it.
Well, no, it was a good song, but we felt that the way it originally came across
agreed.
was much more like our Golden Triangle album, the third album, which for some people was good, but probably a little less accessible for some.
Let's talk a bit about how much. Like, tell me about, I guess, the themes and the songwriting process of that.
I started playing around with learning other people's songs. A lot of my songs, I suppose, throughout the journey more so. Unfortunately, I'll just put a disclaimer in here. I was doing covers. I'm not doing covers now. So
the last time tour?
Yeah. So, but that was, the basis of that was to get enough cash together to be able to record this album. That's been achieved now. So, and the band itself is starting to get people noticing. So it was time for me to cease doing covers. So I'm not known as a covers artist. However, in regard to this song, I think I was trying to learn a Springsteen or Ryan Adams song at the time and started playing around with capos and just intricate sort of notes and come up with this song, and it pretty much just wrote itself. But when, like what Keith said, when I presented it to the band, it was a little bit more rockier, and this is the good thing about having such great musicians in the band. Their interpretation of a song to say, we're going to slow it down, we'll see what becomes of it. But not only that, but they're able to also start playing something, and it's pretty close to exactly what I envisioned. So if you look at a song, it's like having a blank canvas. You've painted up most of, say if it's a self-portrait, you've painted up most of your face, you've got the outlines, but you want to put in, your liver spots and your lines on your face and just things that come, with age, we'll say. So what the guys do is they then start putting their little brushstrokes in. Keith, I think musically, I've never come across someone who's so in tune with exactly where a song needs to go. That's probably stems from he's a bit like me. I've never come across someone who's so into music and over so much diverse different artists and really gets off on the production of songs, the writing of songs, the stories behind the songs. So that really helps because, like, when he's making up his lead guitar bits, it's like, yep, that's perfect. Or I'll say, no, maybe try that note higher up. It's almost completely fully formed, which, and that happens with, Gav and Briggsy and then Greg as well. But then I might be able to say name check, playing along a song and then just go, no, it needs to more do that bass line out of Pixie's song and then name the song. So they sort of know where things need to go. And that's like with How Much, as soon as it slowed down, it was like, got to get a pedal steel on that. Just knew it straight away that it needed a pedal steel to flesh it out. But Keith's really good to then go, all right, well, we better not layer too much electric guitars on this, or we'll be a bit more subtle and put a 12-string guitar on it. Because if you're going to have pedal steel, it will put, I suppose, too much shimmer onto the song sonically. That's my view because I'm like visual the way that I interpret things.
And that was the advantage too of recording in the studio. We did a head gap down in Thornbury, and Finn Keane, who runs the studio there, he was our engineer and also co-produced along with Shann and I under the name of the Greasy Triplets. We produced the album, but Finn was also really good to give us some hints and ideas on the songs as well, and also helped to pull us back a couple of times when we overindulged a little bit.
I think on that song, actually, Finn, there's a spot on it that it stops, then goes back into the chorus, and that was Finn's idea.
Yeah, to do the full stop in.
Yeah, he said, nah, just stop it down. And like once he sort of suggested that, it was like, oh yeah, it needs to be like that. I can hear that now.
Yeah. It's good being in a band where it is a collaborative process like that everyone's allowed to have some input. And it is valued. Shann's not the sort who, is jealous about the song that he's put on the table, that if it doesn't turn out exactly the way he very first heard it.
But that's faith. Faith in the musicians that you're playing with and trust. And that comes with time too. So, the longer that we are in this band, the more personally I'm enjoying it. and I'm getting a lot more out of it because it's collaborative. It's like you can't win a premiership by yourself.
Of course.
It's like getting the cup, which is the album at the end. You can hold that up by yourself, but geez, it's better when you hold the cup up with everyone else.
It's really that collaborative sort of like team effort. You don't want to like ignore like the sort of the experience that you have surrounded yourself with.
That's right. Let's work as a team and do it my way.
Exactly.
Let's talk a bit about the production of the album, because last time around you put some restrictions on yourself, like in terms of time and everything. But this time you've opened it up a bit more. You're working with Finn.
Well, it started off, and it's really just on 12 months since we started the journey, and first went down there with the idea of recording an EP. There were 4 songs that we did, and that was over 2 separate sessions that we did those. We went down and recorded the backing tracks, and Shann and I returned to flesh it out some more.
That's how we do things.
And then I remember listening to the songs, the rough mixes that came from Finn after we had done the recordings, and I said to Shann that it felt incomplete, that the songs to me were too good, and it actually, after 4 songs, I was left empty, and really felt that we'd laid such a great foundation that we had to go back and record more songs to flesh out a full album to do those songs justice. There's times when, and look at name checker, another local band, Sleepy West, who fantastic band, and Joel English, a great songwriter, and they released an EP, and I remember sitting there at the end of that thinking the same thing. I would love to hear a full album from them, and I thought I would rather us not leave it at that, leave an almost an unfinished work on the table, and I'm glad Shann agreed.
Well, I only agreed because Keith wanted to pay half.
I'm sure money talks there. Yes,
that's the bottom line. Because up until that point, it was just me funding everything with the band. It is what it is, and I appreciate it because people are giving up their time. You know, they can be spending time with family or whatever. But having those 4 songs, and I'm brutally honest. I just said to Keith, I'm happy to do it, but I've got no cash. Like, I'm going to have cash, but I can't do an album that's costing too much. So Keith said, well, let me get back to you. I might pay half. It was so good because I think out of that, it really felt like this is just as much Keith's project as what it is mine. And that's, it's everyone in the bands, but the fact that someone's willing to go out on a limb and do that with you, like, and believe in what you do, it's also, feel like he believes more so in everything you're doing. So it spurred me on and wrote more songs after that. It was like, better write then.
They flowed and some good real variation into the tunes that come through on the album. To me, it's a real journey. Really, really happy with where it all ended up. And after the restrictions we did place on both Varland and Golden Triangle, especially Golden Triangle, which was 4 tracks direct to tape in the studio. It was really old school. What we played there and then was the song. The only overdub was the vocal, because it was just too hard to do the vocal and
percussion at the same time.
Bit of percussion, but at the same time as the vocal was happening. To go to here where we virtually unlimited in terms of tracking.
Yeah, we tried to keep it to 24.
Mentally, we kept ourselves to 24, but being able then that Stephen Briggs keyboards, we could do Hammond and piano. We could do another organ track as well. So we allowed that to happen. We didn't limit ourselves.
And did you find that you appreciated having that extra space a lot more after doing something like Golden Triangle? Absolutely,
and it's interesting how much space there's actually come up on the recording. You'd think by being able to do that it'd be so dense, but it actually has some good space. And part of that too was Sam Cassara in the US who did the actual mix for us. Sam up in Boston, isn't he, based?
Yeah, the album jumped a bit around the world, didn't it? Like whilst it was getting mixed. And
Exactly.
Yeah, he's Josh Ritter. He's his keyboardist live. He's produced and recorded some Josh Ritter albums, who I think Josh Ritter's about to release an album with Jason Isbell.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sam also recorded and mixed and produced David Ramirez, We're Not Going Anywhere, that album from 2017, which was my favourite album of 2017. So I just Google stalked him and found him and contacted. And really, I suppose the hook for me was I talked about his production values and just parallels with other recordings by other producers, but also name-checked, you've actually taken that keyboard, it sounds like it's out of a Grandaddy record, and then named it. So he'd go, okay, this person's like either got real issues and I'm a little bit scared, revoke his passport, or actually be enamoured with caring so much. And luckily for us, it went that way. And quite bizarre, when him mixing the album, we didn't even speak to him once. No. We didn't even have a Skype call, nothing. What he would do would just be sending heaps of emails to each other, and then he'd send a mix through. And Keith and I, we have a system of something that we both do, and that's because we've spent time in studios over the year. It's called the car test.
Yeah.
So you get a mix, you burn it to CD, put it in your car, because that's the space that you always listen to in your music.
You listen to the most music.
And then from that, we then would go back to him. I'd go on long walks with my dog and put headphones in, so I'd get contrast of the mix, and then I'd contact him and go, bass needs to go up by 2 dB. This needs to be panned that way. And he was amazing, but one of the ideas that I had to get him to change is the second single, which is Stay, which is going to come out, I think, in April or something. There's a slide guitar on it, and that slide guitar, Keith played it on it wasn't that song, it was a Tragic Modern Love.
Yeah, Tragic
Modern Love.
Third song on the album.
Anyway, yeah. So Keith plays his slide guitar on electric, and I said to Keith at the time, can you replicate that exact same slide guitar on an acoustic? And Keith thought it was an odd idea. I said, trust me, it's a Tom Petty trick. So he did it, and then we thought it sounded great. We sent it over to Sam, but then he panned the slides. So when you put them in the headphones, it sounds like 2 slides. So I had to then contact him and say, one of the things, change it. They need to be on top of each other, so it just sounds like one slide guitar, and people listening to it will go, gee, that's a really interesting slide guitar, but it's just
so it just adds to the tonal range of the solo and just ideas like that. But his interpretation of the songs,
amazing,
because you send off the raw mixes,
yeah,
and you're just allowing someone to listen to it and imagine it their way. And the way a lot of the mixes that came out at times were just, there are some that are just stunning in terms of the interpretation he put on the song. And I thought, well, I didn't hear it like that, but we had to have an element of respecting his ears and what he did as well, which was, it's not easy letting your song go like that as well.
Yeah, one example, there's a song that's, when I wrote it, it's very The Smiths, and I play this synth line on it in a section, and what he actually does is he makes this synth pan from one side to the other but sound like it's underwater, which is the complete opposite interpretation of what we thought. But then, we sort of sat on it for a while, and we gave it to Greg, the bass player, and he said, that's so good. That's modernising our music for now. And we sort of went, oh, well, Greg, if that's what you say, we'll do that, because it's that collaborative response to things. Whereas I would be the person that would go, oh, yeah, that synth should just be lower in the mix and not have that effect on it, because that's what I'm used to listening to.
Yeah.
So you have to sort of just let people do what they need to do, and that's sort of what we've done all along the way. But if anything really stands out and we don't agree with it, that's obviously when we're saying our piece as well.
Sounds like this is the album that's had the most sort of outside influence as well as out of all of your records.
Probably your first one, John Baxter, had a fair input. John owned the studio where Shann recorded, and he had a fair bit of input. You can hear it in the different sound on that album. It's a very clear sound, and John did the mix as well. But yes, outside of that, Varland and Golden Triangle definitely was us.
They were a lot more in-house, weren't they? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, us.
Exactly. And whereas trusting Finn to help us, and that's because Shann's actually known Finn for many years beyond Four Lions.
I lost touch with him 15 years ago, and I started just when I thought, we'll go on record again, it's always around progression for us. So first album, for all the gearheads out there, was pure Pro Tools. So everything just went onto Pro Tools. Second album was 8-track reel-to-reel, so only eight channels, and then mixed onto 2 tracks reel-to-reel. Golden Triangle, 4 tracks reel-to-reel, mixed onto 2-track reel-to-reel. This next one, I wanted to go, right, I want a different sound again, so I want to do a hybrid of record onto tape and then dump that into Pro Tools for mixing. So I just started Googling Analog Studios Victoria and found Headgap, and then just went in there and went, I know him, and he's the owner. Oh, I'll contact him. And thought he could be scared of me, but he wasn't. He was like, oh, hey, mate. And, yeah, we caught up, and it was like 15 years had gone by, but he's just one of those people that you just go, oh, yeah, it's like I haven't seen you in like 2 months.
And I should say that, I mean, it was an interesting choice wanting to record on 24-track reel-to-reel, because the instant we started the first session, smoke started coming out of the reel-to-reel. And so we ended up recording the whole thing on Pro Tools.
Blew the motor.
So we had blown the motor on the machine. So we actually recorded it on Pro Tools, but then we put it back through the reel-to-reel. So it's all been on tape. There's just that little bit of saturation.
It took almost a day just to do that, didn't
it? Yeah, just doing that, running it through tape before sending off the raw tracks for mixing. So
we spent 2 weeks in total, or just under. I think it was 13 days. At Headgap.
In the studio,
So that's a long time. Then a couple of weeks to mix and mastered in San Francisco.
Yeah, and now that you're out of the studio and you've got something, it's not quite out yet, but it's done. You'll be touring it and promoting it a fair bit, won't you, over the course of the year?
Yeah, we're having a meeting in Melbourne this week about that.
Well, we'll work out the full tour, but we've got the tour for the first single, How Much. So on the 15th of March, down at the Lyrebird Lounge in Elstonwick. Ripponlea, Elstonwick area in Melbourne. Then on the 16th, Handlebar here in Bendigo. And then on the 17th is out at Cornella Brewery, Shiraz Republic, out just the other side of Tullaine.
So it's only 3 shows, all Victoria. It's just, we call it the soft launch.
So
we go hardcore.
Yeah. And then our planning at the moment is around launching possibly late April, might line up with the Bendigo Autumn Music Festival.
Yeah, I was going to note that you're also on that lineup as well.
Yes, we are on that.
Well, I think that's going to be sort of the start of the tour for us.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be doing like some shows a show in Canberra and Sydney and maybe Brisbane. I don't really know yet.
See if we can make it up there, but also down, hopefully, Geelong, Ballarat, Melbourne.
Oh, yeah. All that. Mainly Victoria, obviously. And then
probably throughout May is the likely sort of scenario. But as Shann said, we're having some discussions coming up later this week.
To nail it all down. Can you tell me a little bit about, from your perspective, the Autumn Music Festival?
From my perspective, it's an absolute privilege to be on it. There's a lot of bands that they could have chosen, but we're one of them that they actually have. I think I had a look, and from logistically knowing where a lot of these bands are from, I know they have a local content, but I think we're one of only 3 local actual Bendigo bands that have been chosen. I think there's a lot of bands that are from, Castlemaine or Swan Hill or wherever around the vicinity.
There's good mix, but when you look at the standard of music that's bringing to our town, and you look at, Kurt Vile is a headliner.
Yeah.
Now, there's a guy who is an absolute brilliant musician and an artist. But then you've got Tex Perkins, Vicar and Linda Ball. I'm trying to think of some of the other names who elude me.
Mojo Juju.
Yeah.
Just because I like saying that.
There you go, Mojo Juju. But really, you have a look at the lineup and what they're bringing to Bendigo.
Dan Kelly.
Over 4 days, and there's going to be a mix also of some street performances and pop-up gigs, I believe. It's not just music, it's all sorts of art.
Wonderful, yeah.
So, and these are people who run the Mullen Festival up in New South Wales, so very experienced people. And they've been watching Bendigo for a number of years before making the call on doing this, and in talking to the organisers, they've got a real commitment over a number of years to this festival.
That sounds fantastic.
Helps that people can get flights here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Qantas will help.
Yeah.
That's
Qantas should
something to
help
look forward
us.
to. Yeah.
Yes. It's Qantas.
Tell me about Four Lines beer.
Which one? Which version?
Yeah, there's been a couple.
V1,
all of it.
V1,
Yeah, a couple.
V2.
Yeah. Version 1 was
Well-
True Brew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was, do you want me to really go into it?
We don't have a lot of time, but it's definitely something that's a little bit unique that you guys have been doing, which I...
Well, we made one with
True Brew.
I pretty much went in there and said, I want you to do your best to adapt Venom Gold Nail. So that's pretty much what I did with them. And then with the latest lads, I just went out to them and went...
Cornella Brewery.
Yep. An XPA. So I needed a little bit more hoppiness, a bit more citrus zest within the beer. And that come out. I think what they actually need to do is sell it in stubbies. I've tried to convince them, but they're so cash, those guys, in a good way. They just went, we'll just sell it at markets, where they really are saying, no, like put it in 3 different venues in Bendigo. And
it is actually a really
great
nice
drop.
beer.
Need more of it, by the way.
Yeah, and it's not just because it's ours.
If people want to get in touch with you guys, look up tour dates, get tickets to gigs, potentially get the album when it comes out, what can they do?
fourlionsmusic.com.
And also Facebook.
Yep.
Naturally, there's plenty on Facebook.
Facebook is Four Lions Music.
Four Lines Music.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Twitter, Instagram, all of that.
The usual things, but probably the website and the music will be available through. We'll be releasing singles on SoundCloud, Spotify as well.
Just all the normal digital spots, but I think
the normal platforms.
But the album itself's going to come out on vinyl and
yes,
CD.
for those of you that are vinyl lovers, there will be vinyl edition of the album, limited.
CD. We're actually got a tour of the pressing plant that's making our vinyl on Thursday. Should put it out on 8-track as well.
No one has anything to play the 8-tracks on.
Oh, it's a bit like cassettes. No, it's joking.
No,
Do it on cassette.
I can play cassette. Don't worry about that. I've got plenty of cassette players still.
Thank you, Shann and Keith, for having a good chat with me.
Thanks, Lewis. It's
been a lot of fun.
Thanks, Lewis.
This interview originally aired on my community radio show, The New Local, on Bendigo's 106.7 Phoenix FM. This episode was produced by me, Lewis Adams. You can find Local Chats online, localchats.com.au, or on Facebook or Twitter as @localchats. A big thank you to Shann and Keith from Four Lions for coming in for a chat. Bye.